Welcome back, Fight Family, to the Ground and Pound Podcast Best Bets. And as always, we're obviously covering a lot of the best bets for this week's Marvin Vettori taking on Roman Dolidze 2 to make some money in your guys' wallets. We crushed last week, and obviously we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we do, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And let's talk a little bit about last week. So last week, obviously, as we mentioned, absolutely crushed it. We're 6-2 now on Dog of the Week. Justin Gaethje was able to make it 4 in a row for us. So picking all underdogs, we've been able to cash in for you guys. And if that's not worth a like and subscribe, I don't know what is. Got a dog this week. Don't feel necessarily as confident as I did in the highlight reel Justin Gaethje, but definitely somebody I'm going to be putting some dollar on this week. I think it's a crazy line. I think that we could definitely make some money off of this individual, but if you want to check that person out, you're going to have to wait until the end of the video, like always. But before we do get into that, let's talk a little bit about last week. And we went 4 or 5 last week, almost swept the board. Unfortunately for Alex Pereira, we weren't able to cash that last bet in there. And it was a close fight. A lot of people saying they disagreed with the decision. I felt like it could have gone either way, but shame we didn't sweep the board there. But like I mentioned, Dog of the Week was able to cash for us. Justin Gaethje at plus money. We have Bruno Ferreira at plus money. He was able to get the finish, which was fantastic. I know we had Ignacio Bahamundes. He fought a great fight as well. And our Confident Player of the Week, the one I had the most money on, was able to cash too. And I just want to say, just before we do move on, that the Confident Player is the one I do have the most money on. With all money lines and dogs, and Dog of the Week, I play about a half unit. So most of the money does go on the Confident Play. And then I just do half units for all of the money lines and underdogs. So just wanted to clear that up for you this week. And it same applies this week with the Confident Play and the underdog and the money line. But before we get into the plays, hit that like and subscribe button. And let's make you guys some money. So first up, we have Ryan Superman Spann. And to me, this line makes no sense. I've seen people this week talk about how Waldo Cortez Acosta, is going to have the boxing advantage. He's going to have the speed advantage. And after doing tape study, I just don't simply see it. And you can't sit here and tell me that Ryan Spann should be the underdog to Waldo Cortez Acosta, even when you just look at their level of competition. I mean, Ryan Spann moving up from light heavyweight all the way up to heavyweight. So maybe that benefits him. Maybe it doesn't. That's yet to be seen. But the issue with Spann that we've seen in the past is that he tends to slow down a little bit in fights, and he is not necessarily finish or bust because he does have decision wins, but maybe that weight cut is the factor. And when you compare these two guys' resume, it's clear that Ryan Spann is the much more elite level fighter. He's fought the much tougher level competition. And Waldo Cortez Acosta, I'm going to be honest, I mean, his level of competition is poor. I mean, the guys fought guys like Jared Vandera. He's cut from the UFC, losing record in the UFC. Lucas Brzeski, that guy sucks, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't think that guy's got a single win in the UFC, and he's also cut, I believe, from the UFC. Andrei Arlovsky, Waldo Cortez Acosta, that was a very, very close fight, and Waldo was something like minus 700. He was a huge favorite over Arlovsky, and a lot of Arlovsky bettors, including myself, thought that he won that fight. So you can't sit here and tell me that he should be a favorite over a finisher like Ryan Spann. And I think this is kind of a buy low spot for Ryan Spann right now. I think there's a lot up in the air as far as what we're going to see from him at heavyweight, but I like it. I think at plus 140, I think he should be the favorite. So definitely somebody I'm going to be attacking this week. And yeah, I like him, and I like him for you guys too. So definitely put your money on Ryan Spann this week. I think he's a little bit more proven, and I think the move up to heavyweight might be something that rejuvenates fighters. And sometimes moving up and not having to make that weight cut is the big factor. So I've gone with Superman this week. And next up, we have Sam Hughes. And to me, this whole matchup really just comes down to Sam Hughes' pressure. I think Sam Hughes this week could lose the first round, and Luciano could definitely find the pressure and win the first round, get in Sam Hughes' face. But Luciano hasn't really been tested inside the UFC, and Sam Hughes is definitely a test to determine whether you're UFC level. Luciana fought an individual called Aaran in her last fight. Aaran is pretty much just an atom weight, and because the UFC doesn't have an atom weight division, she is forced to fight up at the weight class that Luciano fights at. And Sam Hughes, the reason I think that she should be, this fight should definitely be a little bit closer on the odds. Plus 200 is a joke. is just because Sam just doesn't stop. So the pressure, the constant forward pressure, I think that's going to be enough. And I think this should be closer to a pick'em. I do agree that Sam maybe should be the underdog, but not plus 200. I think there's definitely value in this line. And to me, the grittiness of Sam Hughes is going to pull this one off. I definitely think it could be close. I definitely think that the first round she might give away, so maybe look to bet Sam after the first round. But we haven't necessarily seen what Luciana does when she's put under pressure, and she has decent striking, but Sam Hughes' ability to push forward and get in the pocket and make fights dirty, and even just go for takedowns, which we haven't seen too much of Luciana's ability to actually stuff a whole lot of takedowns, I think could be a big factor here for Sam. So I like Sam this week. Definitely somebody that I would highlight as a live bet after the first round and don't necessarily take the money line right now. But yeah, I like Sam Hughes this week, and I think she gets it done. And next up, we have Roman Dolidze in the main event. And this one, to me, is just based off of value. I think when you kind of look at the story of these two in the main event, you have a guy in Marvin Vettori that he's been off now. I think it's almost 2 years. He was meant to fight Brandon Allen a few months back, and he had a serious injury on his shoulder, which required some serious surgery. And it's after a long layoff, inactivity, serious shoulder surgery. It's not something I'm really looking to play, especially as a favorite. And I just think Dolidze's live here. He's been much more of an active fighter, fighting up at light heavyweight along with middleweight. He's got the ability to mix in takedowns. I don't think he'll be able to get Vettori to the ground, but at least he's a weapon that he can show him. And the story of this first fight between these two guys was pretty much just a case of Vettori's volume, landing the jab, landing the low kick, and the judges obviously scored it for Marvin based on the volume, but Dolidze was having success just spamming that right hand, and I think maybe coming in with a different game plan this time and, maybe mixing in some takedowns or, setting up his shots a little bit better. I think maybe the activity of Dolidze might show here, and to get him at plus money, I think it's a little bit of a bargain. That line's actually been coming in. I know that Marvin was a little bit bigger of a favorite when the week started, so obviously other people see what I see, and yeah, I like Dolidze in this matchup. I think it goes longer, and although Dolidze does tend to slow down in rounds 4 and 5, we also haven't seen Marvin fight in a very long time, so maybe Marvin's gas tank's not where it needs to be, and it's pretty hard to trust somebody as a favorite coming off a major shoulder surgery. So yeah, I'm going with Dolidze this week for sure. And next up, we have the confident play of the week, the slam of the week. And as I said, this is the one that we have the most money on. And again, I've been able to find a minus 110 for you guys. But as I just mentioned, Dolidze and Vettori, both of them have got absolute granite chins, especially Vettori. And I'm taking this fight to go over 2.5 rounds. It's our first leg of our confident parlay here. And the reason for it is, like I said, both guys very durable. Dolidze, when he tends to slow down, he tends to lose a little bit of pop in his shots. And Vettori, just purely because of the fact that it's a 5-round fight and his inactivity, I think he's going to want to build up some rounds, build up some confidence again from not fighting in such a long time. And yeah, I like both of them. They both have granite chins, so I really like this to go over. I think it probably goes the distance, if I'm being honest, but for the sake of our confident parlay, over 2.5 rounds is what I've gone with. Next up, we have Nunes taking on Priscilla Cachoeira. That's a mouthful. Yeah, I've taken this one to go over 1.5. The reason for it is because both ladies have never actually been knocked out. We've seen with Priscilla that when she gets taken down, she does get submitted a lot of times in her fights, but that's not going to be on the table here. Both of these ladies like to stand and strike, and I think both ladies might even respect each other's power, so we might get a little bit of a staring contest early in this one. I think that gives it all the more reason for it to go over 1.5. And that's the second leg of our parlay. And you can usually rely on both of these women to knock their opponent out. But I think Nunes is, if you actually look at her record, all of her wins and losses in the UFC have all come by decision. So I think that power is a little bit overrated, which I think is why we're getting a respectable parlay leg here in the over 1.5. So I'm going with that one as the second leg. And then we've got the money line here on Kevin Vahos. Can't even pronounce his name either, but Kevin Vahos. I just think he smokes Choi. The guy has very, very respectable boxing, very nice striking. He ends combinations with low kicks, and Choi is very, very hittable. If you go and watch any tape on Choi, you'll see, win or lose, Choi gets dropped in every single fight. This young man Kevin is a slick striker on the feet. The guy is able to mix in the boxing very, very nicely. He slips to the body. He comes back up top. He has grappling as well, but I think he'll probably finish Choi on the feet if I'm being very honest. And the one lone loss that Kevin Voorhaas does actually have is against Gene Silva, so on the Contender Series, which isn't a bad loss at all. We've seen what Gene Silva's been able to do in the UFC, so yeah, I really like this play here. I feel very good about it, and that's our third leg with Kevin. Now, what I've done for you guys this week is I put a little chalky parlay together because, as I mentioned at the start of the show, that this particular week is pretty difficult in order to find value. There's a lot of very, very big favorites and a lot of tricky lines. So I've just put this little chalky parlay together of heavy favorites for you guys in case you wanted some extra parlays to root for this week. But as you can see on the screen, I've gone with some of the bigger favorites in, I believe his name is Diar. Diar, this guy is Kazakhstani, 10-0, heavy hands, came off of a KO win on the Contender Series, making his UFC debut, which is why he's not in a confident parlay. Coming off a head kick. His striking looks impressive, and his opponent, Ribeiro, is very, very touchable on the feet. So I definitely think that he can have success here. I think that he's a problem in the division, and there's still questions to be asked about him, which is why I've kind of left him out of confident parlays this week, but he's in the chalk parlay this week for sure. And the second leg, we have fight to go the distance between Sam Hughes and Luciano. Both of these women usually go to a decision. It's very, very chalky. I think it's like minus 550, minus 600, but it's just a very confident leg that we can rely on boosting the odds. Nothing needs to be said about that. Both ladies very durable, and most of their fights go to a decision. So very much a 1 + 1 = 2 there. And in the third leg, we've got Damon Blackshear. Damon Blackshear, to me, is one of my more confident plays this week, but just because of the line and the lack of value in his line, I've had to throw him in the chalky parlay. But I think he's probably going to be able to get a finish on Cody Gibson, and we're going to talk a little bit more about in detail in a moment when we talk about props. But yeah, I like Blackshear here. I think that he's probably going to get it done. And we've got Musasa, who's making his UFC debut against Vera. Very, very heavy-handed guy here coming out of the Congo. 7 of his 8 wins coming from knockout in the first round. And we've seen that he's able to go the distance. The reason I would not necessarily have him in too many parlays and he's in the chalk parlay this week is because he is a heavy favorite, but also we've not actually seen what his fight IQ is like. And he may rush to get a finish and go to the ground with Vera and get caught up in a submission, which is where Vera is very live. So I would, kind of keep him out of parlays this week other than the chalk parlay here. But he should be able to get it done on the feet. He's worlds apart in terms of power and athleticism and strength. But there's just that little question mark I have of whether his fight IQ lets him down and he rushes to the ground to get a finish and gets submitted. But ultimately, I do think he will get it done on the feet. But that's the chalk parlay of the week. In case you guys were wondering, that's my my alternative in case you want some more action for some of these fights and some of the things that I feel good about this week that aren't in the confident parlay. And next up, we have the props, like I mentioned. The props, very, very briefly, I really like Damon Blackshear to find the submission here. I think it's the prop itself is anywhere between plus 300 and plus 260. It's kind of in that mark. I still think there's good value here. 4 of Cody Gibson's losses have all come by submission. So Damon Blackshear on the ground, he was one of the only UFC fighters to actually get a twister in the UFC. Most of the time, even when he drops his opponent on the feet, he does try to look to take the back and find the rear naked choke. So the guy is looking heavily for submissions. And I think that that's a great prop. The other one I also have is the under 1.5 in the Choi Kevin fight, the Voorhaas fight. I think, to be honest with you, I think that Voorhaas puts him out in the first round. Vallejos, I'm butchering that name, guys, but what I lack for in the names, I make up for in the bets and the tape study. So bear with me on that. We'll get better. But yeah, I think the under 1.5, I think is a killer in this one. I think that this is a surefire thing at plus money. Choi gets hit far too much and he gets dropped far too much. And Kevin's striking is elite on the feet. You can only watch tape for a few minutes to realize that he's pretty nice on the feet. But I also wanted to do this with you guys as well. Some honorable mentions. I know that you guys obviously do your tape study. You look at other people's content as far as MMA betting is concerned. And I just wanted to throw in some honorable mentions as far as what I see the angle of what people are trying to take here. And first of all, we've got Priscilla Cachoeira as an underdog. I do think that she is live. I did pick her on the show with Carlos, just purely because I do think that it is a striking affair, and I think she has the heavier hands. But the reason I've not bet on her this week is just purely down to the age factor. She's the older fighter. Sometimes that can be a little bit harder to trust, coming off multiple losses as well. So that's why she's in the honorable mentions category this week. We have Kurt Holliber as well. The reason that I didn't go with him is similar to Priscilla Cachoeira's angle as well, is that he is an older fighter, 38 years old, coming towards the end of his career, in my opinion. And although he is fighting Anthony Hernandez, I think a lot of people are just looking to fade Anthony Hernandez as opposed to actually looking at both skill sets. I do think that he is live. I think Kurt could definitely pull out and squeak out a decision, but the age and the factor of the fact that Anthony Hernandez did actually look pretty decent in his last fight at altitude. So, and he does look good at lightweight. So the age factor, it's just something I can't really get over there, but I do see the angle people are looking to take. It's just not something I'm going to be playing this week. And AJ Cunningham. The thing with AJ Cunningham is at plus 450, I think he's definitely live as an underdog, but the issue that I'm having here is that he's having to cut from lightweight all the way down to bantamweight. So 20-pound weight cut. We've never seen him at this weight class before. So it's hard to really trust what we're going to get from him. I think that he's somebody, if I'm being honest with you, if all goes well and, you have a couple of spare bucks laying around or a couple of spare quid laying around, you throw a little bit of money on AJ Cunningham at those odds just purely because he's going to be the much bigger guy in there. And I would just say wait until weigh-ins. If he makes weight at bantamweight, maybe throw a couple of bucks on him, but he's not somebody that I'm going to be throwing my money at this week. And as I mentioned at the top of the hour, the top of the video, dog of the week, Dubin. Now I know what some people are thinking, 6-0, untested, in the UFC, but I think that the odds are all wrong. Yunesi Dubin, when I was watching tape on her, I heard them talk a little bit about her Taekwondo black belt, talk about her Wushu black belt, and she is fighting a lady who is very, very unproven inside the UFC herself, which is why I think at these odds, I think that it should be closer to a pick'em. We're getting plus 275 on Dubin this week, and if you haven't seen her vicious KO victory on the Contender Series as a plus 800 underdog, the second that the UFC had that viral video, they pushed that out there. They got her into the UFC Apex, the UFC PI. They got her with a nutritionist. They got her with a strength and conditioning coach. And I think that Dana White, as a businessman, knew what he was doing. He pushed that viral video of her knocking out her opponent. And they've been backing her ever since. And to me, this fight really just comes down to three main factors. And that is basically taking your time as the first key to victory. She needs to be able to pressure her opponent, but not pressure with too much excitement and too much ferocity for a UFC debut. She needs to just be able to find her shots on the feet. When you look at Cardi Judice in this matchup, Cardi Judice will pressure forward. She will look to throw bombs. She will look to throw heavy hands, but she will take one to give one. And I just think that Dubin has much more power on the feet, and her experience in combat sports is very vast. Like I mentioned, the black belts in multiple striking disciplines. And I think that when you go and look at some of her other tape on the regional scene, she actually shows that she can be very measured. I don't think that she just walks across the cage and throws bombs. I think that she can find the shot on the feet. And the last key to victory, I would definitely say, is don't gas. She doesn't necessarily have to knock out her opponent. The conditions on Contender Series are basically, you try and get a finish in order to win a contract by Dana White. So you don't have to go out there and go crazy. Let's follow a game plan. Let's follow the strategy. Let's take our time. She can win a decision. All of six of her wins have all come inside the distance, but she can be measured, like I said. So I just think take your time, take in the moment, and don't try and go for the finish early in the first round on gas. And I think, like I said, she'll have a lot of success. And to me, I can't understand why Carly is the huge favorite here. She's like a 3-1 favorite because all of her opponents that she's fought, all of her victories, have all come by opponents that haven't actually got a winning record. All of her losses inside the UFC have come against fighters that are all 500. So she's not fighting the elite of the elite, but she's still losing to those individuals. And all of her wins, like I said, coming against people that are not only not UFC level, but they've never actually got a winning record themselves. So Dubin's 6-0, like I said, all finishes. She can only fight who's in front of her. And I think she's also the grittier and tougher fighter as well, based on what they were talking about with her background and things that she's been through in her career. So I really like Dubin this week. Like I said at the top of the hour, top of the show, that 4 in a row, trying to make it 5 this week for Dog of the Week, picking all underdogs. And hopefully Dubin can get it done. And I know it's a little bit of a more obscure pick this week for you guys, but I feel good about it. I think this should be closer to a pick 'em, and we're getting almost 3-1 odds. So let's go Dubin, making it 5 in a row. And before we wrap things up, I just wanted to go over some of the best bets. Like I said for the top of the show, that best bets this week, we've got Moneyline Ryan Spann as an underdog. We've got Sam Hughes as a 2-1 underdog. We've got Roman Dolidze at almost even money. And we've got the 2 parlays, the chalk confident parlay. I really like this week for some of the bets that I've been able to kind of wean out of such a very, very difficult card, in my opinion. If we can just get up on this week, we can keep the momentum rolling from last week's 4-5 record, and hopefully Dubin cashes for us again for 4 in a row for the Dog of the Week. And if you've enjoyed the content, like I said, hit that like and subscribe button. Check out all of our full card breakdowns that I do over with Carlos on a Wednesday night, and check out our recaps of each event on Sunday or Monday night. If you hit that like and subscribe and hit that bell, you won't miss a single bit of content. And hopefully we can keep the momentum rolling and put some money in your guys' pockets. See you guys next week. Peace.